we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Boy, it's Friday already. Huh? Week goes by a little different when we take a couple of days off. Boy, you know what? I would say hi to everybody. There's a bunch of you here. It would take me a minute. So hello to everybody. Chi-Chi, have fun playing Skippo. And saw that. And to my brother, actually both of them. Johnny, really good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. Alan Valentine, glad that you're here, bud. It's the weekend has come. You know, they're Saturday. They're on the other side of the planet. So, hey, Tommy Bird, good to see you. Brandon, look at this. I mean, the gang is all here. People, today we're going to talk about people, places, and things. And before we do, I think I told you guys I was going last night to a VIP party for Hot August Nights, which was really cool. It was all of the original founders, the people that sort of got this going. And if you've ever been on this side of the country, Hot August Nights is a really big deal in Nevada, and actually in the whole West Coast. It's a very, very, very large car show. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of antique American cars cruising around Reno. It's you see, I mean, over the course of the week, you'll see, I mean, 400 or 500 57 Chevys. Like everywhere you look, it's like a flashback in time. Occasionally you'll get on a street where the only car on that street that isn't from the 50s is the one you're driving, which is just very, very cool. But it was great. I was invited by my friend Jim, who Jim's been on here a few times. He stops by the lifeboat, and he's the guy that I was telling you about that's doing the Safe Rides program here in Reno to help people who find themselves intoxicated from getting in cars. Very, very good dude. And it was wild because I got there and every single person I met said, were you aware of the fact that your friend basically started this thing? So Hot August Nights was really something that was his brainchild, which was awesome, and it was cool to be his guest. But it was, the reason I bring it up, a couple of reasons. It was we were sitting directly to the side of the stage, and for a band they had Blue Oyster Cult. If you're of a specific age, you may be familiar with Blue Oyster Cult, and which was a very cool concept too. To be right, VIPs on the side of the stage for Blue Oyster Cult. Very cool concept as well. And for those wondering, yeah, I could have used a little more cowbell. I mean, it was good stuff, but not quite enough cowbell. As it turns out, I had a fever, and the only cure was more cowbell. But the reason that I bring this up, people, is because I don't go out. It's and not, I guess I just got to a point in my life these days where going out to places in this town is something that I don't do anymore, because when you get sober, you really kind of have to work on people, places, and things, right? You can't continue to hang out with the same people in the same places doing the same things, or you're just going to relapse. You're going to get back right into the lifestyle, guaranteed 100 out of 100 times. And tonight I'll get an email. I still hang out with all of my friends. Keep it up, right? We'll have a conversation in 5 or 6 months or 2 or 3 years or whatever, but you really do have to change the people, the places, and the things that you do if you want to remain sober. It was wild to be in an environment like this. The VIP tent was sort of broken up into two areas. One was covered because it was raining yesterday, and that was for really the VIPs, right? The people that had the all access passes and all of that stuff, and that's where we were sitting. But regardless of whether you were there or outside, it was a pretty good size crew of VIP people, a lot of sponsors, a lot of people that put money up for Hot August Night. So I would say there was maybe 300 or 400 people in the VIP area, probably about 50 or 60 in the spot that we were at. But the food was free, right? Dessert was free, and so was the bar. And it was really, it's an interesting thing when you no longer get wasted to be in an environment like that. And never been there before. This is not a place that, I've been to and I'm going back, but nevertheless, I was right next to a rock concert, and rock concerts traditionally for me were an opportunity to do even more drugs. So it was unique to watch people and to sort of do the people watch thing. Or a lot of people just completely smashed. Nobody really got out of control. There was no need for security or anything else. But I watched people that were really obviously out of control. They had porta potties, set up the little bathrooms that they bring in there. And unlike the average rock concert, these were the cleanest porta potties in North America. Nevertheless, I don't think you'd want to hang out in them, right? It's still, if you think about the concept of a porta potty, it's still fairly nasty, right? And I watched one gentleman who he was either going to the bathroom every 11 minutes, right? Literally, because I'm sitting there like this, timing this guy, from one stop in the bathroom to the next. And over the course of about an hour, he went 6 or 7 times to the porta potty. Now, I don't know what drug he was doing in there, but I promise you he was doing a drug. And whatever the drug was, it was one that takes you in the upward direction. And it was one that caused him to have some very serious nasal issues. The man sat at a table looking around, panicking and rubbing his nose. And I remember thinking to myself, boy, he looks like he's having a ball. You know what I mean? Like, looks like he's just really having a lot of fun. And it got me thinking about the whole people, places, and things. Because very often when we look back on things, we do it through the lens of something that is skewed in a big way. When you look back on memories, you slant those memories to fit a narrative in your brain. I would think back to things that I've done and think, boy, it was really a good time. I had a lot of fun there. And when you really start seeing someone who was having the kind of fun that I was having, this guy looked miserable. I mean, he really did. He certainly did not put one morsel of anything in his mouth. And he looked like he was having a pretty tough time even drinking, and which leads me to believe that, I may know the substance he was on, but that's neither here nor there. What it really boils down to is this was an individual who at a later date is going to talk about how much fun he had in the VIP tent at Hot August Nights. He'll start off with, I brought a bunch of blow, right? Or I brought a bunch of meth, and I was in there partying and drinking and watching it. What he was doing was staring around in circles, looking paranoid. But when we look back through certain lenses, we think of things from our past in a slightly different way. And one of the reasons that I scream so often about owning the past and being real with the past and all of that is because, there's an old cliche about being doomed to repeat it, right? If you don't learn from the past, you're going to just continue to do the same things over and over again. One of the things that will guarantee that is if you don't dramatically change people, places, and things. so often we talk about quitting a substance, right? I got to quit doing heroin, or I got to quit doing cocaine. What you need to do is change your life. It's not as simple as, if I remove this drug from my existence, everything is going to be perfect. And unfortunately, we build it up in our heads like that, right? Everyone does this. If I could just get off of this, life would be perfect. And we've talked about this on many shows before, how you build this nirvana in your head, right? This is going to be the greatest stuff in the whole world. All I got to do is get off the dope. And once I'm off that, you know what I mean? The bills will be paid. The chicks will come running. My car will be better. I will have a pocket full of money and all of these things. And when that doesn't happen, we very often run right back to whatever it is we were doing, because that's been our coping mechanism for so long. So as the disappointment of, this is what I quit for, right? As that starts to kick in, you're either going to push through or you're going to run back. And there's really not a third option. That's what happens. You either tough it out to get to the good parts, or you collapse. And I did it for decades, where I would say, no, this isn't worth it. And then I would immediately rush back to my substance of choice. But I believe the reason that it took me so long to get sober was, if I look back and I track my relapses, it was never me sitting around the house and going, okay, this is the day I'm going to do heroin, right? Today is the day I'm just going to say, screw it. I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy a couple of grams and I'm going to either smoke it or shoot it. I would run into somebody from my past 100 out of 100 times. I would run into somebody, and if, depending on how solid I felt in my sobriety, I may not relapse on that, meeting, but that's always the start. And you start spending a little time with the old friends, and then you start talking about the old times. And we look back on the times that we had with those people, skewed through that lens that I was talking about earlier, right? I mean, truthfully, you hang out with these people and you're miserable. You're strung out. You're trying to get dope. It's just an awful thing. And you get together and you start talking, and they talk about times that really were terrifying, but the terror's gone, right? That's what time does. So we no longer think about, oh, we were so sick in that parking lot. You might say that, but the feeling that you were going through, that's long gone, right? The memory changes all of that stuff. And for that reason, very oftentimes we're quite willing to go back to the same places, hang out with the same people, do the same things, and expect that this time around, I'm not going to get high, right? I'm going to hang with the same people. And if you find yourself in your head saying things like, well, I'll be a real jerk if I don't hang out with my old friends just because I'm sober, you're already in relapse. I promise you, you're already in relapse. And I don't mean you're getting high. I mean, the process of sliding to that next usage is in deep, deep swing. If you are rock solid in your sobriety and someone says, you mean you don't talk to Mark anymore, or you don't talk to Tim anymore, or whoever, you go, no, I don't. No, I don't. He still gets high. If I see him in public, I'd go, hey, how you doing? You hear people all the time say things like, oh, so you turn your back on all of your friends? No, you really have to start thinking about, like I said, it's not about quitting your substance of choice. It's about changing your life. And one of the things that you do is you put sobriety in front of everything. Everything. Well, it's not more important than my family. It better be, or you're not going to have a family. It's not more important than my job. It had better be, or you're not going to have a job. I am a believer in God. You all know that. I absolutely love my family. What I'm doing right now with watches, I've never been more happy in my life. But none of those things, God included, can come before the sobriety. And what I mean by that is, if they said, well, we're gonna go to a retreat to hear a guy talk about speak about the Lord, or whatever the case may be. Oh, Mark got a hug. If I know that I'm going to hear somebody speak about the Lord, and I'm doing it with 7 guys that I used to shoot 6 grams of dope a day with every day, and I get in that car, that I am putting myself in jeopardy. And I am absolutely one of the I think that sometimes if you just tuned into the lifeboat, you might have the wrong perspective on me, right? I'm successful today in sobriety, but for 3 decades, I failed miserably. And the things that we talk about on here, when Mark and I talk, we're talking about how to avoid our failures so that you don't do the exact same thing. We're not rocket scientists. What we are people that have read a decent amount about what causes people to relapse. And unlike some people who have tons of initials after their name, we also lived it, right? We were dead square in the middle of it. So when you read something in a book, you go, damn, I did that, right? This is exactly how I relapsed every single time. Like whoever wrote this nailed it. This is exactly what I was doing. So you have to change people, places, and things. I know that I'm talking to people tonight. Excuse me. I guarantee that a bunch of you have said at one time or another in your life, I'm going to move, right? I got to get sober. I'm going to get out of Reno, or I'm going to get out of Salt Lake City, or I'm going to get out of Florida, whatever the case may be, right? Because I know where to get dope here. If I go somewhere else, I got nothing to worry about. If you're not rock solid in your recovery, they could put you on the moon. You'll figure out a way to find, the extract of the poppy. I promise you. It doesn't matter where you go, because I tried that. I lived in Texas. I ran from Texas to Salt Lake. I was going to get sober. Then I ran from Salt Lake to Reno. I was going to get sober. And if you're not rock solid, this is why I say you can't say I'm going to quit doing dope. What you have to say is, I'm going to fundamentally change my life. I'm going to start living a completely different way. I know I've talked about this many times on the show, but if you're a Seinfeld fan, there's that really, really funny episode where George Costanza decides he's going to do the exact opposite of every single thing he would normally do. And everything just goes right. A girl comes and sits down next to him and he blurts out, I'm 40 years old. I live with my parents. I don't have a job, right? And he just starts spitting out all these things and the girl asks him out, right? But truthfully, at least for the first couple of years, that was how my decision processes were. I'm not exaggerating at all. I really am not. The first thing that came to my mind, I would say, there's no way that could be the right decision. It can't, because I've never made the right decision, right, in my life. And I got to a point where I would start going through a checklist. I'm going to do the exact opposite of the things that I used to do across the board. I'm just not going to do any of the things that I used to do. And if you've been on the boat long enough, I beat certain things to death, right? Making the bed. Why is it such a big deal? Because I never did it in the past, right? Ever. So I have an opportunity. The first thing when the sun comes up, which, by the way, I like to watch the sun come up for the same reason. Because I watch the sun come up. Hell, the only time I ever watched the sun come up is if I was coming in from the night before and I was either on meth or blow or whatever, and I had done enough drugs that sleep was not anywhere in the ballpark of a reality. Well, then sometimes I saw the sun come up. So when I got sober, I thought, I'm going to try to catch as many sunrises as I possibly can. What a way to start the day, to say, never did this before, I'm going to do it now. Everything that I do, even now, after 7 years, everything that I do is a proclamation that I'm not the same cat I used to be. It may sound crazy, right? But I finally got it through the help of a guy that turned out to really be a mentor in my life. I finally came to realize that I didn't do anything right. So I couldn't trust myself to continue to do it. Brandon, thank you so much. And Liquid Heat, I don't think I know the name Liquid Heat. First time. Liquid Heat, man, I appreciate you, right, for being here, and the generosity too. Thank you. God bless. I really appreciate that. Hey, if you are new to the Lifeboat, there's a Dropbox, right? It's going to have either my email address or Mark's or both, right? Drop us an email and tell us a little bit about yourself so that the next time we look out over the deck and we see your name, we have an idea of who you are. And if you're struggling with anything, we kind of know what it is. It's never going to be put on the air unless it's something you want us to put on the air. We're really, we're quite vicious about that. Like, we've got, I don't know how many videos anymore, a bunch of them. But if you look back through, we don't talk about anybody on the boat and their struggles unless that person wants to come on and talk about it. And there are many people who do. By the way, if that is something you're comfortable with, you can also shoot us an email and tell us that you'd like to come on and tell your story or come on and talk, because we definitely would like to have you on the best shows that we do. Go ahead. Oh, okay. In him we win. I am glad that you are here. I really am. God bless. I'm so happy you're here. And in him we win throws out a hey wages. So apparently I know where you came from.
You come over to my channel, bud. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yep.
Guys, anybody here from my channel in the Wages World, I can't tell you how much I really appreciate the fact you trust me enough to come check us out.
Oh, amen.
I mean, it's
yep.
You guys don't have to, and you do, and it is something that's special for me anyway. But
oh no, I think for me as well. We were really blessed when we got the show up and running. That right around the time I decided to eat that really disgusting foul fish. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go back and look at it. I got the video ready to show it. This is Stroming video. I ate. The promise was I wanted to get to 1,000 subs, and I would eat this really disgusting stuff if. Hold on one second, because this is worth squirreling on. Liquid Heat says 6 years sober, and it took prison to get me here. Me too. 7 years sober, and it took multiple trips to prison for me to get here. If you've never caught any of the earlier videos, I am a convicted bank robber. I'm a convicted gun runner. The majority of my crimes are all theft. I stole to support my drug habit, but it took about 3 decades for it to finally sink in, and it did while I was in prison. That last prison sentence was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. M. Hunt, good to see you, my brother. Glad that you're here. Cassidy West, glad that you are here. M. Hunt says, hey, Mark Wages.
Hey, M. Hunt.
The major says, it's a shame it had to come to that. You know what? It happens to a lot of people. And the shame is just, I mean, it's a shame that, drug addiction is what it is, because it's a very rare thing that someone doesn't hit some level of below the lobby, if you know what I mean, right? They might go to the first basement level, they might go to the second basement level, or they may take 15 minutes, going down after they pass the lobby, which is what happened to me. But I think that, for me anyway, I'm a big picture guy, and I really believe that, and I know that people struggle when I say this out loud, but if I could go back and start over somehow, I don't know how much I would change.
Right.
As crazy as that sounds. And it doesn't mean that I loved the ride. It doesn't mean that any of that. But I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. We've been really, really blessed that, like I said, when we put up that fish video, so many incredible people decided to subscribe that day. And I'm talking to a bunch of you because a lot of you have been here since that day. And it was the Wages World crew.
I can show that real quick if you want me to. I got it ready.
Yeah, hold on one second. Let me see what Liquid Heat says here.
If you wanted me to.
Liquid Heat says, oh my God, that's crazy. I say the same thing. That thank God he put me in prison, because if not, I would not be alive. You're the second person I've ever heard say it. Liquid Heat, I don't run into a lot of people that say that either. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone else say that. But you know what? One of the things about addiction that I have found is that whatever brings you to your knees is probably going to be something that, over time, looking back at, it's going to be something you thank God for, or you thank the universe, or whatever it is you believe. I personally thank God for it. But you're going to hit something that is that linchpin. It's going to be the catalyst that propels you into a completely new life. Make no mistake, the whole getting sober thing. You're not the same person without a drug habit. That's not how it works. You really become, this is why so many times, and we've had some people debate this as well. Hey, Lady Fiona Crispin, I'm glad you're here.
Doesn't it?
We've had
Doesn't it like fit right into what we're talking about though? The people, places, and
absolutely,
things.
Absolutely, it does.
You're going to prison; it's a different place. You're seeing, different people there. It's all changing, and
absolutely, it does. And the real testament to that is that I didn't walk through the prison doors and get sober. That's not how it worked. If that were the case, I'd be sober a lot longer than 7 years. But I got in there and they were all new people, right? Should be easy for me. But I continued to do the same things. Yeah, it was a different place. It was different people. But at the same time, they were the exact same people. You understand what I'm saying?
oh yeah,
Like all of the people that I got high with were back in Reno. But the people that I chose to have as friends in prison were the exact same kind of people that I hung out with in Nevada. And when I say the exact same kind of people, I'm not looking down my nose. I'm not saying that, well, these are rotten individuals. No, they're drug users, right? They're drug users.
Same lifestyle
and
you were living.
Same lifestyle.
Yeah.
For the majority of my life, you could not be my friend if you weren't addicted to drugs, right? I would have some acquaintances who might dabble in drugs, right, that weren't quite addicted yet. But the people that I actually spent time with had to be people that were addicted, because it didn't fit my lifestyle to know anybody else. Hey, you want to go out and get a cup of coffee? No, I got to go steal something. Right? I need, the clock's running and I need $700 before the end of the day. You can't explain that to someone unless they're in that life. And once you change the people, the places, and the things, you've heard me say 500 times that what we're doing right here, right now is the gold standard for sobriety. Now we're doing it virtually, but we're having a meeting where a bunch of people come together and get to know each other. The purpose of these meetings is not just so you get stuff off of your chest. It's because now you're in a new place with a whole new group of people doing a new thing, right? If I had said to anybody here, if I had said to Liquid, what was it? Liquid
Heat.
Liquid Heat. I'm sorry. I'll get that down. I promise you. If I said to Liquid Heat and started talking about, if you went back 7 or 8 years and I told you you're going to get on the internet and you're going to hang out with people and talk about how much better it is to be sober, you would have laughed hysterically in my face. You would have said, I promise you there's no chance of that happening. If you went back and told me a decade ago, not only are you going to do that, but you probably will be the guy talking, right? And you're not going to, it won't be a job. This is just going to be like a labor of love kind of thing that you do. I would have laughed you senseless, right? I would have, and I would have loved it as a concept. I would have said, wow, cool. I don't see it happening. But, it's very rare that you meet someone who likes being addicted to anything. Even if they give you a lip service that they do, everybody wants out. Cassidy West says, I love this place. I am so shy. Meetings just freak me out. Cassidy, you just articulated what makes the lifeboat, right? Mark and I had conversations about this before this was the lifeboat. When about a year ago and some change, right?
Yep.
Mark and I started to discuss the concept of what we wanted to do. And what we wanted to do was give people who would never stand up at a meeting and say, hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm addicted to drugs. I'm having a really bad day and here's why. I mean, there was a lot of people on this planet that just simply would never do that, especially when you consider that public speaking is considered literally the biggest phobia. There is not one phobia that beats it, right? Which is astounding to me because spiders are terrifying, right? Everybody ought to be afraid of spiders. Like arachnophobia should have that beat, but as it turns out, most people are more freaked out about having to get up and speak. So what do? We find someone who is in the worst spot of their life and we tell them the only way to get sober is to get around other people that want to be sober, right? Change your group of friends. And now change what you do. Get up in front of this new group of people that you don't know, break out of that shy that you're talking about, and tell us what's wrong with you. Admit to the stuff that you've never wanted to admit to anybody in the world you have done to maintain your drug habit. You're going to do all of these things. You think to yourself, boy, I think I'd rather just get high, right? I'd rather maintain the lifestyle I got than push myself that far out of my comfort zone. If this is what it's going to take, then maybe I'm not cut out for this. And unfortunately, that happens to a lot of people. And compound that, right? How many times, Mark, have we heard somebody say, one of the first reasons that I ever started doing drugs was because I was painfully shy, right? I had such a societal phobia, like I could not stand being around people. But I found that when I did drugs, I could come out of my shell. I was much more confident. Okay, so that's what led you down that path. And now in order to get sober, you're going to have to throw all of that away. And so the concept behind the lifeboat, Cassidy, was exactly this, right? You don't even have to put up your name. We don't know that your name's Cassidy. For all we know, your name is whatever. But you can come here and make friends, and people who literally will have your back. You know, the best friends I have in my life, I met right here doing this. That's bizarre, but it's an absolute fact. Tommy Bird says, this is a place where you can learn to be the new and better you around new people without rejection, resentment, or contempt of any kind. Well put, Tom.
Yes. You know, you don't get judged when you walk through the door here. Matter of fact, you get the opposite. We don't assume anything. And you're welcomed with love. Ask Flamin. He's here. I know I say that a lot, but Flamin, you have no idea how much I appreciate that about you, man. I mean, just...
Right? I mean, no, true story. Flamin would check in when we were during our hiatus. I doubt more than a day or two went by that Flamin didn't reach out to me or to Mark or both of us and just see how we were doing and throw a, hey, I love you. And it's it's good stuff. And one of the other things, Cassidy, if you're really new to the boat, one of the other things that you're going to find, which is probably a little bit different than most meetings, and this was something else that we kind of wanted to really hammer home. If you do these meetings, right, and the angle that you come at is drugs are awful, right? People that use them have a problem, and you go from this negative kind of slant, you scare away the people that need this the most, right? So we decided that the only thing we were really going to hate on was addiction. If you wake up in the morning and you can't face the day without a substance, then obviously there's a problem. Now, there are people for whom, like myself, Liquid Heat, where it's going to take a while, right, before the seed that's planted with sobriety takes root and starts to flourish. Well, during that time, the last thing in the world we want to do is run somebody off. There are people on the lifeboat who came to the shows or the meetings, however you want to look at it, for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months high every single time they showed up. I remember trying to get sober and seeing a person from the front of the room doing one of the speeches you see at AA or NA, who was the guest speaker or whatever, and they went and they had a little conference, like right in the middle of his speech. This little conference went on or whatever. And two people went over to a guy in the corner who admittedly was doing this one. You know, he was getting his nod on. But they went over and removed him. And, I understand that it's difficult to be in a room with someone that's using if you're trying to stay sober. Virtually, it's beautiful because we don't see that. Right. And it's not, there's no trigger. I'm sorry, but there's no trigger from someone saying, hey, I'm high, but I'm here anyway. We're glad you're here. And if you want to show up high for 2 or 3 years before you hear that one thing, not necessarily from myself or from my partner, but from someone on the crew, I think the real growth that happens here on the lifeboat, 95 out of 100 times, comes from listening to what's going on in the chat more than it is listening to myself or Mark.
100%.
Because because anytime someone gets up and starts talking,
and I'm going to say hi to Jess real quick. She just popped in. Jess, she's new here. Says she's been listening. I'm not sure if she came from Wages World, but that doesn't matter. I just want to say hi to her because She said she was
Excellent.
just listening. She decided to talk tonight, which is awesome. So,
Oh, yeah. Jess, thank you for being here. And thank you for letting us know you're here,
yep.
right? Really the magic of the lifeboat happens when you start to just pop up, meet everybody here, watch what the interaction between all of the different crew members.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this too, guys. The love doesn't stop when the show ends. Okay.
Oh Lord, no.
I mean, I can't tell you. Like Tommy spoke a little bit when we took our vacation. How many people reached out to me and reached? I know Tommy was getting reached out to too all at the same time, and you know, me and Tommy were talking back and forth. I mean, we were all just trying to support each other through a time that we had to deal with, right? And I think that bleeds into what we're talking about here with the, you know, especially the addiction part. You know, if you're trying to stay sober, there is never ever any judgment here, and I think that is really one of the main differences that you get. And you know, you said we hate on drugs or addiction, not drugs, but addiction.
Right.
But we also hate on hate. And
oh, no question.
You know, and that's different than what you're going to find in other places. And I think that we don't even have to say that. And the reason why we don't have to is because we live it. We show you guys that, and we really do truly try to live our lives that way, guys. There is just no doubt. And you know, I can't tell you, you know, after we came back and after that first show, how much my mood changed. Even my daughter even said, "Hey, you know, you're in a good mood." You know, that kind of a thing. And it was like, man, you know, yeah, I get it at that point. And it was like, yeah, I see. And but yeah,
I got a comment in the comment section the other day, and it was I'm not bagging on this comment, by the way. It definitely came from a place of caring, and it was a lovely comment of someone that said, I love what you do here, but I'm not surprised you quit, right? You know, for the time that we took off. And they said, because it's too much. And I think that the 5 days a week is going to, you know, probably play out to be too much as well. You know, we gave this a lot of thought. We really did. But the reason that I'm bringing this up and I'm mentioning it is because it's pretty rare when you're doing something and people say, you know what, I love it, but I'm so worried that you might burn out. Do a little less of it. I mean, that's the kind of caring that goes on. But the one point that I really got out of answering that, maybe more than reading it, is that I'm not doing 5 days a week because I care so much. I'm doing 5 days a week because I need those 5 days a week. You understand?
Yeah.
I mean, for real, I need to.
That was
All right, doing a little tune up.
It was remember I told you it has that second button that says stop streaming. I must actually just hit that a second ago. It's streaming again. We're good.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, good. So yeah, you know, Mark makes a great point. Honestly, I really do need this, you know, and I'm considerably happier since getting it back up. I'll be honest. Yesterday, I was bummed out. I really was. Like, I had a good time at that thing, but you know, it's going to take a little getting used to when we do have the days off. By the way, Cassidy West says, I was on a different sober YouTube channel. There are people that will take advantage of you, so be careful. We probably don't say this enough on the boat. There was a period of time, if you've been here long enough, we've had some people that have come on and taken advantage of some of the people on the boat. So one of the things that we're firm believers in is that you know, when you become sober, there's something that happens to your heart, right? Literally, it swells, and it becomes one of those situations where we really are prime targets, you know, where everybody wants to help so much that they end up sometimes getting suckered in. So I would, like, as I've always said, you know, I get emails all the time. I know Mark does too, where someone will say, hey, I've got a great cause. So-and-so needs help or whatever. And is there any chance you could do a GoFundMe?
Yeah.
Just announce it on there. It is a very, very rare thing that we do that. As a rule of thumb, we think it's a pretty bad idea.
I do
And I know that that sounds awful, right? But what it comes down to is, let's say that this thing takes off, and you end up with 100,000 people. With 100,000 people, there will not be a day ever that there aren't 500 of them that need a GoFundMe.
Yep.
Right? We will become the GoFundMe channel. And considering that anybody coming out of addiction is going to be decimated very often, financially, spiritually, emotionally, right? Every way that you can be. So it's a good point, Cassidy. I'm glad that you brought it up. For the love of everything good, don't mention the name of that other channel.
Yep.
Because we never do any of those things here. Not
I think,
because.
Go ahead. Yeah, Tom, the one time that we did do something similar to that was when Cindy passed, right? And that's a legitimate thing. And the reason why I say that is because me and Tommy can 100% vet that to be the actual truth of what's going on.
Yes.
That's really one of the biggest problems with doing GoFundMe's on your channels, because you cannot, no matter how much you look into something, you can't 100% just be, you know what I mean? Like, bam, this is what's going on. We're going to try to help these people. And it's different if we know them personally, there's a lot of variables is what I'm trying to say. And, and it doesn't hurt to ask, but just know that when we tell people no on that, it is not something that we're being hateful about. These are the reasons why we're doing it that way. We wish we could come on here every show and help everybody with a bucket of cash. I mean, honestly, but it's just not simply the way the world works. And, and we went through some growing pains ourselves with those kinds of that line of thinking. And, and I know everybody Tommy really got, really went through some stuff with somebody he was trying to help. And to come to find out, they were just messing with him. And, and that's,
I remember that.
What I'm saying is it's a great way to tell everybody that, listen.
That's a great example.
And it's because your heart was so big. That's what I'm trying to say.
Great example.
When your heart's that big, your heart's a bigger target. And that's what bad people do. They will target that. And, and it's something we've learned. And so when we ask you specific questions, like when we're trying to help, there's reasons. It's not because we're trying to be, intrusive or anything like that. So just know that. And you guys are awesome. I mean, I really never, So. Yeah, and I know I got a little off subject, but it's what I'm known for. But the internet is it's the wild, wild west in so many ways, right? And it's such this brand new sort of alternate universe, and there are things about it that are so fantastic, and there are things about it that are just so awful. And it's worth mentioning, if for no other reason other than the fact that this is, the place that I changed, right? People, places, and things. I'm not at bars, and I'm not hanging out at a place around here that we call 4th Street, where, if you're on dope, you spend a decent amount of time. These days, I do spend a lot of my time in cyberspace. And I spend a lot of time in cyberspace working with people that are trying to walk the same path. And don't regret any of it. I promise you, there's not much better than what we're doing here. Yeah, and that's, people, places, things, and that's just. I know it sounds like a very broad thing, but when we're talking about what we're trying to live and how we're trying to do things, I think the biggest thing is that, like Tommy said earlier, one of the biggest things you got to do is change your place. You don't go back down the same street you did, and you don't do that, because then guess what? You start seeing those people again. There's places and people, and I think that what we have to do is we have to retrain our brain again to not want to be around that kind of stuff. And for those like Tommy that were in addiction for so long, I mean, I was in addiction, I guess, if I was going to say like the addicted, not dependent part, when I was doing it the right way, you know what I mean, before I really started getting off the rails, probably 7 years maybe. Tommy's was 30. Okay, so I mean, there's a lot of extra files he has to defrag out of his brain. And that,
Interesting way to put it.
but yeah, I mean, but that's really what has to happen, and and you're never going to get rid of those files. You just got to put them in a different cabinet and just set them over there. And if you need to bring it back up whenever you need to, when you're talking to your counselor, when you're talking to your PO, whatever it has to happen.
Right.
But you don't want them in the front of your face all the time, staring at you and just beating you down with the bad decisions you made. It's not healthy for anybody, and that includes anybody that you're around. Because if you're feeling like that, I promise you, you are portraying that out how you're acting, and
Right.
people will see it, especially those people that love you. And that's people ask me, how did you stay sober and never relapse? And the first thing that comes out of my mind, and I know not everybody is as lucky as me, but I say this: if you knew my wife, if you knew my mom and dad, if you knew my kids and my sister, you would have never asked me that question, because that is the answer. I didn't get sober, and I know this is this is a controversial thing to say too. I didn't get sober for me. Okay, I got sober for them because, yeah, it was going to help me, but at the beginning, I did it for them, not me. And because guys, you got to understand, you would never have stayed an addict if you didn't like it. Okay, there's something there that we liked, we loved. I mean, honestly,
No
and
question.
for somebody that loves you to step in front of that for you and take that bullet, knowing it's going to be a hard road, that's something special. And my wife and my family have done that for me, but we try to at least simulate that, at least a little bit, and we've been fairly successful. And it ain't me and Tommy being this; it's everybody here. So thank you for that. But when I get asked that question, people get shocked when I say that. Because I know not everybody has that, and I feel so bad for people that don't have that support, and that's why.
Well, and something, that's another reason that therapy, and especially group therapy, things like the lifeboat, are so important. We say it here all the time. The world says you can't pick your family. We say, of course you can. Of course you can. If you didn't get dealt the best hand in life, and there's a lot of people that didn't, and there's not that support there from your family, go ahead and build you a new one. I have hundreds and hundreds of brothers and sisters that I can lean on and call on at any time, and a lot of them, lean and call on me, and they're really, I know I use them as an example all the time, but Alan Ballantyne is an absolute brother of mine. Mark is an absolute brother of mine, and there's no mistaking that. It's just a stone cold fact. So.
It's funny you said that, Tommy.
Related. Go ahead.
It's funny you just said that, because I actually just typed in the thing and told Alan, "Hey, thanks for all the emails while we were taking a vacation." It's in the chat. Literally right before you said that. So anyway, sorry. I thought that was funny.
No problem at all. And here's one other thing. A lot of people come to the lifeboat, and when you come here, you want a little bit more anonymity than you would normally have. Right? I get that. Let's say you're just putting your big toe into the sobriety water. You're still getting high, you're doing whatever. And the last thing in the world you would want is to come across someone who might know who you are, right? There's a reason that so many people use, something other than their name when they get on YouTube. I have no problem with that, right? We all get that. If your account is brand new, shoot me an email and tell me why. And if that sounds bizarre to you, the reason is quite simple. This is the world of trolls, and we have run into so many problems over the times that we've been on. And we're blessed. We got the best blue wrenches on the planet, and they really take care of everything. But if you're new, you got a brand new account, shoot us an email. Tell us, hey, this is why I did what I did, whatever. And if you're brand new to the lifeboat, email us and tell us a little bit about your story. That's so that we can honestly try and help people more. It may sound trivial, but if somebody comes here and says, I'm really having a bad day, right? We say, we try to lift the person up, whatever. If I've had an email from you that said, I've tried to take my life twice, and it says I'm having a really bad day, we're probably going to react slightly different
Yeah.
than if it's just I'm having a bad day. So the more that we know about you, usually the better we can do at what we do, right? And you don't have to share it with the world, but tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because honestly, I know that it, and you explained it really well, because that's really the whole reason why we want you to do that. And we're not going to go into the full details. This doesn't even need to be wasted breath on that crap anymore.
No, it's your story.
And it's, but we want the new people to understand why we do what we do. If you got here after like the beginning of the show, you didn't get to see the disclaimer, because all that stuff Tommy just said is kind of in that disclaimer, and but I get it. So
Yeah.
it needed said. I mean, especially when you're getting a lot of new people in here.
We're getting a lot of new people,
and we will. We're gonna have to pivot and move continuously as we grow as a channel. There's things that we talk about in the background and things, and obviously when we start getting, and we're already getting there a little bit, to a certain level, we're gonna have to start thinking of how to help everybody with, asking other people to help us. Probably is what it's gonna have to be.
Sure. Yeah, we will evolve.
Yeah.
It will need to happen, because the goal won't. Right, the goal isn't going to change, and for that reason, we most assuredly will have to, and continue, to do so throughout the life of the show. Now, the one thing I got to hammer home, and I know we're right getting close to the top of the hour, but Mark said something a second ago. If you're new to the lifeboat, I really want to talk about what Mark said, because I think it's really important. Mark said, you know what, when I decided to quit, it was it wasn't for me. And there are people who really struggle with that. I will tell you straight away, I did not quit for me. I didn't. Now, most assuredly, I stay sober every day, and I'm a huge part of that. But when you're at your absolute lowest, right? When you really are in the thick of it, and you're at the worst place you've ever been, very oftentimes self-esteem is gone. Love of self is gone. And then you're going to go and see a counselor who says, you have to do this because you need to want it. And you need to, well, the only thing I wanted was more heroin.
Yep.
Right. Then I met, someone who brought me through a different program. And I said, well, I know I have to do this for me. He goes, oh, Lord, I hope not. I was sitting in a prison cell. There wasn't a lot going on for me. And getting life in focus and finding out what's important to you and what the priorities for your life are is a huge thing. And when you start to realize that, maybe I don't love myself as much as I should, but boy, I care about my kid, or boy, I care about my family, or boy, I care about X, right? So I don't want anyone to take that away and go, oh, no, you got to do this for you. If that makes you happy, go ahead and do it for you.
Right.
But make sure you list all of the reasons that you're doing it for you. Know what I mean?
Yes.
Like your kids, and yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because, it really is true. And I want to say something real quick, and then we'll end the show. But anybody I didn't mention about sending me emails and reaching out to me, thank you, everybody that did. I don't want anybody to get offended or anything that I could, because I didn't mention your name. We were getting a lot of them, guys.
No question.
It pretty much is everybody, honestly. It's, it ended up being that. And so I just want to say thank you, and thank you for, it warms my heart to know that if something bad was to happen to me or to YouTube in general or whatever, that you guys are still there. It doesn't have to be here that we talk, is what I'm trying to say. And that's something special that we all have together. And you can't replicate that. That's something that has grown through what we've done. And so I just want to say thank you to those guys that reached out to me, and everybody pretty much here in the chat did. So love y'all.
Okay, and I have to apologize, people. This does not happen very often here at the Lifeboat, but yeah. Squirrel is. It has been raining now for about 2 days, and we get the thunder, right? And Squirrel's still getting adjusted to the whole thunder thing. And until she does, she's usually under a bed. Why should you never eat a clock? Because it is a time-consuming process. You know what? You know what, Seven Son? The only way that joke would have made it on here is if you had paid for it, because that is just awful.
Talk about a dad joke, man. That's a dad joke right? from the top. That's awesome, though. I love it.
Tommy Bird says the cat has left the basket. Alrighty, people. I promise you, tomorrow night we will be back here. Same bat time, same bat channel. And if I have to duct tape the cat to the basket, I'm kidding. But I will have Squirrel here, I promise. Between now and then, people, one assignment. It's the same assignment always. Reach out and try to save somebody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville on the other side of the glass.
Mark Wages.
All right. Love you all. See you tomorrow night.